Let me state right away that this is not an NDE. Rather, it is a massive spiritual experience in which I became entangled in evil spirits and was rescued by God and Jesus. My story may resemble that of people who've had near-death experiences with God. I was a 34-year-old female university student who had recently graduated, living in Australia at the time. Even 2 years after graduation, I was having difficulty finding work, and I couldn't find a romantic partner. I had sunk into depression, and I was looking for something to help me deal with my sadness and heartache. I decided to attend a Mind, Body, Soul festival in Brisbane after hearing about it from a university friend. I am agnostic, almost atheist, but I was so fed up with my depression that I wanted to find a way to alleviate it. And I remembered attending a Reiki session as a kid and feeling very uplifted and full of energy afterwards, so I went with that intention. I wandered into an applied kinesiology stall at the exhibition, hoping to find some answers to my future problems. Kinesiology, it appears, can provide life answers through muscle testing. As I sat on the table, the head kinesiologist walked in and announced that he would take the next client, which would be me. I recall having a strong feeling that this was fated to happen and that I was fated to meet him. I'm not going to say his name, just call him G. I told him that I wanted to stay in Australia, get a job and settle down, and that I was looking for love. Why wasn't I able to find love? He told me to lie down on the table, and G did some strange hand movements, and I suddenly felt very lightheaded and swimmy, and I realized I was sharing my consciousness with him. Whatever images came to mind in my head came to mind in his as well. We were sharing our thoughts. He saw flashes from my past before concluding the session with the words, "I have sent a guide to assist you." My alarm bells immediately rang, and I wondered, what guide? I never asked for a tour. But at this point, I was mostly skeptical of what the people at the exhibition were doing and dismissed him as a charlatan. Nothing would happen to me. I left the exhibition, and strangely, I began to feel very upbeat and, for the first time in my life, spiritual. Despite being a devout atheist who only believed in our physical world, I found it so easy to believe in God. But there was trouble on the way. A few days later, I felt an invisible presence descend on me, and then strange things began to happen to me. I noticed strange guys on the street veering towards me and grinning at me as if they liked me, and to make matters worse, I couldn't sleep at night. Images or strange visions came to cross my mind, and the strange thing was that they all had to do with the end times or the apocalypse. How would monsters walk the streets, and how would God change his mind, averting the apocalypse? These visions made no sense to me because I was never religious and had no interest in the apocalypse. I was always hungry and ran out of energy, so I began eating a lot more during this time. Every time I was about to fall asleep, some vision of a monster or demon would wake me up, and I couldn't sleep. I was becoming exhausted and ill, and extremely tired. A few days later, I was wandering the city and felt drawn to enter churches. I wandered from one church to another in the city, sitting for a while, hoping to feel better. Finally, I entered a church near my university, a Roman Catholic church that I used to frequent because even though I was an atheist, I enjoyed the priest's sermons. They moved me even though I didn't believe. He was gentle, philosophical, and open-minded with no judgment. I entered and sat by myself. Then the most wonderful and strange thing happened. My soul inquired of God. We all fell from grace to live on earth together. Why can't all people go to heaven together? After all, we're all brothers and sisters in one big human family. I felt the burning sensation of a spirit descending into me all of a sudden. I became terrified and left the church. "I will walk with you," said the voice next to me. I recall this being a voice to be heard, an authoritative voice. Then I became aware of the presence of other beings or spirits around me. "Why did she get up and leave the church?" inquired the authoritative voice. "She's afraid of demons," said a voice back. Who are these people speaking? What exactly is going on? Who are these people I'm sensing? But I felt compelled to return to church and speak with the authority figure. I went back in and asked my question again. I felt the burning sensation return, but much more gently this time, so as not to frighten me. Only the righteous go to heaven, said the authoritative voice. No, not everyone. But I told him that there is love in the world and that despite all the evil, there's plenty of good. Then darkness overtook me, and I felt sad, as if God had abandoned humanity. But an authoritative voice quickly reassured me that this was not the case, and that God was well aware of the love that existed. God will never abandon us. I was satisfied with that response and left the church. I needed to meet a friend for dinner, so I walked to the bus stop at dusk. Surprisingly, I could still feel the Spirit's presence with me. I became aware of a tiny dot of white light floating just above the crown of my head as I walked down the lonely street. At dusk, I was sitting alone on the bus stop, and everyone who passed by would look up at the tiny dot of light shining above my head. It appeared to flash in and out of view. I met my friend, let's call her Sarah, in the city, and over dinner, I asked if I could stay at her house. I didn't want to go back to my room, where I couldn't sleep. I simply informed her that my housemates were throwing a party and that I needed to rest. She graciously allowed me to spend the night. She too cast an occasional glance above my head, as if she too could see the light dot. That night, I went over to her house and slept on her bed, but I still couldn't sleep. Something like a spirit presence was attempting to attack, enter, and control me. It was dreadful. But there was also a voice of authority telling me, "You have been infected. The kinesiologist has instilled evil spirits in you." What? That's exactly what's going on. Who was this voice attempting to assist me? So, because this voice came to me in church, it had to be Jesus. Then I became determined. No evil spirits are going to take me. If God and Jesus exist, then I'm on their side. Then I heard a knock on my heart's door and said, "Come in." "Get out of bed and go to the bathroom," the voice instructed. I had to leave because the evil spirits were probably swarming around the bed right now. I went into the bathroom, collapsed on the toilet, and gave everything to Jesus. Allow him to cast out evil and take control of me. And it was completed miraculously. My mind immediately cleared of all the bad visions and demons, and the attacking feeling vanished, leaving me at peace. I nearly fell asleep on the toilet after that. Sarah, on the other hand, became concerned when she awoke and noticed I'd been in the bathroom for a long time. She asked me to leave by knocking on the door. I quickly left, and we went to have tea in the living room. She was terrified and asked what was wrong, but I couldn't tell her. I was completely overwhelmed by myself. She advised me that staying in Australia with no job and depression was a bad idea, and that I should return to India, where my parents were, and stay with them for a while. Given everything, including my terrifying encounter with evil spirits in Australia, I thought that was an excellent advice. We went back to bed after the tea, and as I closed my eyes, I suddenly felt connected to another spiritual realm through my consciousness. And I found myself wondering, who was that authoritative voice? Who could have rescued me? "Well, who do you think it was?" came back the response. My response was that it had to be Jesus because I'd heard that voice in church. Immediately, my mind went black, and I felt the presence of Jesus, who was accompanied by someone else. I believe later this was John the Baptist, who is a witness to every person saved by Jesus. And the first question they asked me was, "How did you know Jesus was there?" "Christia, why aren't you here?" Unfortunately, I couldn't answer that question very well. And I heard a voice, my higher self, as I later discovered, say, "Here, take my record." In an instant, Jesus and John the Baptist flooded my heart with love and flipped through my life records. In the spiritual realm, information is instantly downloaded. I slept in my room the next night and had visions of Jesus visiting me and showing me glimpses of paradise. I saw the various levels of heaven, as well as the mansions Jesus was preparing for his disciples, a place for us to rest. I saw many people who recognized and loved me already in paradise, but I didn't recognize them. Everything was bathed in a pinkish red light, symbolizing that Jesus' blood purchased paradise for humans. And then I met God. He first appeared as an orb of white light, and I was disappointed that I didn't get to walk with him. God never shows his true face. He's always shrouded in light. The next time I had a vision of paradise, God appeared as an old man with a long white beard and flowing robe, an image I was familiar with as a child. And I walked hand in hand with him, asking the same questions I had asked Jesus in church. Why can't everyone go to heaven? Let us all go home together because we all fell together. However, he also stated that only the righteous go to paradise. Those who believe in salvation through Jesus are the righteous I now know. And then the vision vanished. After that, God spoke to me several times. He would wake me up at 2 or 3 a.m., and it was always like a burst of light and love on my consciousness, as if God's divine essence touched the essence of my soul, and there was a connection. He promised to reveal his life's mission to me, and asked me to teach Sunday school, which I now do. I'm now a devout Christian and a follower of Jesus. After all, Jesus cast out evil spirits and restored my health. I will be eternally grateful to them, and I will spread their message and gospel wherever I can.